Welcome, I am Rail Zeev and your host for Keep Traveling Your African Vacation, the only podcast which brings you insightful information in the African tourism industry by real tourism professionals. Today is our 18th episode and I have the pleasure of introducing Andrew Rosettenstein, who is General Manager of the Future Found Sanctuary in Hout Bay, South Africa. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rail, and great to be here.
Awesome. Let's just bounce straight into this and talk about where exactly you are based geographically and try and give it a bit of a background for our international listeners.
Sure, Rail. So based in the Western Cape, just outside of Cape Town, in a small little seaside village called Hout Bay, approximately 20 minutes from the V&A waterfront of Cape Town. So we are not in the action, but we're just around the other side of the mountain, situated about 5 to 10 minutes drive from the actual harbor of Hout Bay and very close proximity to some of Constantia's most famous wine estates. So a really wonderful location right down here in the Hout Bay area.
So international guests, what is their general duration of their stay when they come to stay with you?
On average, Rail, we get guests coming to us for between 3 and 4 nights, and we have the distinct privilege of a lot of our guests who have extended their stays because they just feel when they arrive here, they come through our doors and the kind of place that they want to stay for a little bit longer. It's a real plus for us to have that, and guests love it when they're here and they feel really relaxed and in tune with nature.
Okay, so besides the activities at the actual sanctuary, which is something that we're going to touch on, what other activities are there within the Hout Bay area?
So Hout Bay is quite easily situated from the sanctuary, from Future Found. And I think one of the biggest draw cards is that we are almost in the middle of the Southern Cape Point Peninsula trip, past Chapman's Peak, all the way down to Noordhoek, all the way down to Cape Point Peninsula. You could then proceed towards Simonstown. Boulders Beach is particularly well known, and then through the little towns of Hout Bay and then Muizenberg. That's the situation, and there's endless opportunities for varied activities in the area, from sports to hiking, cultural. We've got so much on offer.
That's great. Let's dive into the actual activities that you're offering at the property. Give us a broad bit of information as to what you offer at the sanctuary.
We have 5 hectares of beautiful gardens, and we're situated on the slopes of Table Mountain National Park. For those who are energetic, we've got 2 walks which are in the Table Mountain National Park. We've got one walk that takes you about an hour's walk down to the viewpoint overlooking Ladadno Beach area, which is really beautiful. And then if you're turning right into the national park, you walk up to Myburg Falls. Then on the property, we've got the wonderful gardens to walk around, very relaxed, through curated gardens who were done by the horticulturalist of Kirstenbosch Gardens. So there's a similar language in the curation of our gardens here. So from beautiful fruit trees to our 5 elements lawns to our duck ponds, up through the forest area, through our forest meadow, and all the way up to our villa where our spa and our gym is situated. So those are some of the activities. And then from a wellness perspective, which we're very proud of, we've got a list of modalities which includes Tai Chi, kickboxing, acupuncture, drip therapy. We've also got, for the adventurous, a cold plunge pool. And then we combine that with a little steam room to have that contrast therapy, which has become so popular in and around the Cape Town area, following the Wim Hof method. We've got our gym, which if you're wanting to have a personal trainer, if you're wanting to continue your gym regimes from back home whilst you're on holiday. And then we've got our Techno gym, which is amazing. And then from there into our spa. And this is what we really pride ourselves on, is our massage. We range from 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and we do facials. And some of the other modalities in the wellness space is our breath work and our sound work therapy, which our guests really enjoy. So those are just some of the highlights of our wellness activities here. And we also have an external walking path, which our guests love to do that.
Just tell me a little bit on the safety aspect, because I know there's been some bad sort of write-ups. Can guests feel completely safe in doing external walks off the grounds?
So 100% good point, Rel. We have a staff member on site here. His name is Harrison. a young, energetic young guy who will walk with the guest, and he'll take a backpack with him, which will contain water as well as a small little medical kit. So if anything does go wrong on the walk, someone slips or cuts himself, we've got a few things to handle that. And it's just great to have somebody who knows the area walking with them that can make our guests feel confident. He's done that walk many times. So
I just want to touch on something that I've heard it once before, but I don't understand what it is. Drip therapy. So can you give me a little bit more of an understanding of what drip therapy means?
you're right. It is something that not many people have heard about. It is a drip therapy, which, without going into too many technical details, it does help with adding stimulants, the good ones, places your electrolytes, and a really good boost, feeling well. I think these are the kind of things that speak to why we're doing what we're doing. A lot of people these days will go to gym to look good, but actually they're going to a wedding or they've got a race on. But few people go to the gym these days to feel good. I think part of drip therapy is also just to replace those electrolytes and anything else that's lost in activity and high performance activity as well. So it does cross a broad spectrum of activity replacement.
Is this actually an intravenous drip? Is this what you're talking about? What's the safety issue there? Because obviously we're going into the veins. So people that are administering this have a certain qualification. Would that be fair comment?
That's fair comment, Drell. All our therapists have been screened.
Can you give me a breakdown to your usual clientele base? Are you servicing a lot of internationals, or is it a lot of locals that are coming there to break away from their daily routine?
The large majority of our guests are international, particularly from Europe, the UK, some of the European countries of Germany and the Netherlands. And we have got a sprinkling of local guests who come and enjoy just a little time out, just a little getaway from the Cape Town area, as well as further afield in Africa. We have quite a lot of people who've traveled here from the UAE, coming down into Africa from Chad, a few Zimbabwe. So we've got a sprinkling of nationalities on the continent, but most of our guests are foreign. And as I mentioned earlier, an average of about 3 to 4 nights.
I want to just touch on sustainability, since you guys are obviously all about health and wellness and that type of thing. Are you growing anything on site? Where are you sourcing your produce from?
So sustainability is a huge subject topic and incorporated into everything we do on a daily basis. Are part of regenerative travel, which does carry some responsibilities. So I'll go into some of those. So we use chemical-free cleaning material for our swimming pools, which we have 3 on the property. We try not to use chlorine at all, those invasive types of cleaning methods. We source our food from within a small radius of area, and so source things that are from too far away. Try as much as possible to use what we can from our own property. We've got gardens and we have a small selection of herbs. We've got some fruit trees. We've got some wonderful pomegranates that we've been harvesting of late, using those in the kitchen for salads. Malika van Reden, who is our acclaimed chef, she loves going into the garden to go and pick with our guests. So they go foraging with her. There's a tree tomato, tomatillo, there's avocado, there's bananas that actually ripen and use those in the kitchen. We've got all the herbs that you could possibly think of: artichoke, kale, lettuce, spinach. We've got a big selection of things property which we bring into the kitchen, and you just have to stand in the kitchen and watch chef preparing the coriander and the lemon and mint. You just smell all this produce which has been used on our menus on a daily basis, and it's just really wonderful. Great, and our guests enjoy going walking with our chefs with a big basket. They're going to pick fresh chilies or cocktail tomatoes or a whole host of things to use in the kitchen and on our menu. Great, wonderful.
You made me feel very hungry right now, so I'm looking at the time and it's a bit early for lunch, but it sounds really great. It sounds really great. Tell me, obviously South Africa has a few electricity problems. How do you deal with the load shedding? Do you have any kind of solar array that you're pumping out your own power?
Fortunate, since May last year, we haven't really had too many load shedding experiences. We had a few of late, but it doesn't really affect the majority of the households in the country anymore. Most homes these days have inverters and other methods of electricity. So the same here at Future Farm, we have gensets, so we are able to go unnoticed when we switch from Eskom power to our generators. We make sure that the diesel's topped up so we don't run out, and our guests don't feel it.
Andrew, I want to know a little bit about your history. We don't want to go into too much depth, but I'm sure the listeners want to know who they're going to be dealing with or who they could come to when looking at Future Found Sanctuary. So give us a little short background as to where you've come from and how you've gotten to be the GM at Future Found Sanctuary.
I'm from KwaZulu-Natal, from a city called Pietermaritzburg. And I knew way back when I was at school that I wanted to go into the hotel industry. My father, who was a lawyer, said to me, why are you going to serve people? I said to him, yes, but majority of my people will be on holiday and yours are otherwise. So he said to me, go off and enjoy your career. And I spent 30 years in hotels, lodges, quarry lodges, small boutique hotels. And that's been my chosen field in the hospitality industry. Some of the lessons that I've been taught by some of my mentors, who include the likes of Liz McGrath, who owned the collection by Liz McGrath, to Guy Matthews, who owned the Coach House Hotel up in Zanin in the Northern Province, to Liz Biden, who owns the Royal Portfolio, to Luke Bales, who owns Singita. Yeah, I've learned from these as my mentors throughout my career, and they've helped me learn what it is to look after guests. So the most important thing, I think, is know the guest who's sleeping in your establishment that night. Know their names, know who they are, where they're coming from, where they're going to. Just be prepared to learn a little bit more about who's staying with you. I was very privileged to work for Singita for 7 years before I joined Future Client Sanctuary, and before that with the Royal Portfolio, and before that with the Cape Grace Hotel in Cape Town. But just a small niche boutique hotel in my world, and that's what I love. And I've been with Future Client Sanctuary for almost a year now, and I live in Takai, which is just over the hill. So it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to get to work every day. My home, I spend a lot of time here, probably more than I spend at home actually. We treat the guests that arrive as property old friends, and that's what's so great. And we look after them and what their needs are, and we find out where they're going to and what makes them tick. And I encourage our team to use intuitive thinking to look exactly what guests want and to make things special for them and make them realize this is why they chose to come stay with them.
That's very interesting. As you've said, you've been in the game for over 30 years. Tell us a story or something that's really stuck in your mind. Maybe something really funny that wasn't funny at the time, but you can laugh about it at yourself now. I want to humanize you in front of my listeners.
Yeah, sure. So lots of stories, real. And we could sit here for hours and hours. But I think some of the things that really stand out for me, and just learning about how things work in the hospitality industry, is sometimes you can't teach everything. And a lot of it comes from the heart. We had a guest who asked one of the receptionists at the hotel that I worked at, can I see the manager? And of course, I get the message and straighten my collar and my tie and I put my jacket on and I go out. And this gentleman introduces himself to me and he says, take a seat. Can I buy you a cup of coffee? So I said, fantastic, we'll talk. And he says, how do you do it? You're going to need to give me a little bit more information. How do you train your staff to be so amazing? I said, sometimes you can't train, it comes from the staff themselves. And that's what's so wonderful about this industry. So I said, you've got to share the story with me because I'm intrigued. He said, I was leaving your hotel this morning and your receptionist and said, where are you going? He said, I'm going up Table Mountain. And she said, enjoy your trip. I'm cutting out a lot of the detail. He went up Table Mountain and he saw a peak cap, blue one, with an outline of Table Mountain on the front and just a subtle Cape Town logo on the back. He thought he'd buy it at the cable station at the bottom. And he continued walking around on top, admiring the view. And then when he got down to the bottom, the shop was closed. So when he got back to the hotel, he explained this whole story to the receptionist. And she took it upon herself to go and buy a Table Mountain ticket. She drew cash from the cashier. She gave it to the chauffeur. And she sent him to Table Mountain to get into the cable car, to go up top of the mountain and go and buy the cap. When he got back from dinner that night, this cap was on his pillow with a note to say, hope you enjoyed your dinner and hope you had a wonderful day. This particular individual did that. And not to impress, but it's to make somebody's day, make something really special. So these are the opportunities when I talk about intuitive thinking. It's a recruitment process that is so important in the hospitality industry to find people who will not just make your day, but just really make you feel good about where you have chosen to stay. Another story that I can share with you, Rail, was another stalwart in the hotel industry. Taught me what it's like to be within the moment. Something happened and we were waylaid and trying to collect her from an airport, and he used all sorts of reasons to make these excuses up, but she was listening to none of it. And then we got back to the hotel and I said to her, I'm sorry. And the next morning she walked up and said, Andrew, let's go and have a cup of tea. Let's go and talk about what's going on. And so that's moral of that story is listen to what's happening, but also move past it quickly. Don't let it don't harp on the past too much. One of my other mentors from Singita would never talk about money, never talk how much things cost. It would always be, how much more can we give? How much more can we do? How much more can we put on the plates? Can we enhance the guest experience and to create full experience for our guests.
That's fantastic. Andrew, we're coming to the end of the show, and I know that Future Found Sanctuary has been kind enough to do a prize giveaway for the podcast listeners, and I'd really appreciate it if you could tell the listeners from yourself what you're going to be giving away.
Yeah, sure, Rail. 2 nights experience here at Future Farm, which will include your accommodation as well as breakfast. And then inside an activity, do a walk or a hike to either the Ladadno viewpoint or to the Myburg Falls, depending on when the guests are coming, and including a little foraging experience with our executive chef, Malika Rhiannon. But you'll be in this wonderful accommodation, enjoying the likes of walking on the property, just soaking in the sun. We hope it's good weather and just really enjoying a couple of days with us here at Future Found in Hout Bay.
Andrew, thank you very much. That's very kind of you and generous, and I see it comes from the heart, so I'm sure we're going to get quite a lot of listeners emailing in for that amazing prize, and if they don't, then I'm going to steal it and use it myself. But no, jokes aside, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and having you on the show today.
You're very welcome, Rael, and to your listeners, see you out here in South Africa. Come to Africa. It's an amazing continent, and thanks very much, Rael. Appreciate your time.
Great, Andrew. That sounds super exciting, and thank you once again. Today I was chatting with Andrew Rosettenstein, who's the General Manager of the Future Found Sanctuary in Hout Bay, South Africa. Do not forget that prize giveaway of a 2-night stay at the Future Found Sanctuary. All the entry details can be found in the show notes of this episode, or head over to www.wildsunsets.travel/podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate the show on Apple Podcasts or drop me an email. Tune in again next week when we will be chatting to Christian Sanchez, who is the General Manager of the Anantara Resort on the magnificent island of Bazaruto, just off the coast of Mozambique. My name is Rael Zeev, and consider this. A few years from now, you will not remember how much it cost you, but you will still remember the memories you made. Keep traveling.